Epstein didn't kill himself.
abcnews.go.com. Ghislaine Maxwell sentenced to 20 years. It says here, Ghislaine Maxwell, the associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who lured underage girls into the disgraced financier's lurid world, was sentenced Tuesday to 20 years in federal prison and a $750,000 fine following her December conviction on 5 criminal counts, including sex trafficking. Maxwell addressed the court for 5 minutes and said she empathized with the victims, but she didn't take responsibility for causing their suffering. As Maxwell spoke, victims and accusers smirked and raised their eyebrows. At least 2 broke into tears. One accuser said seeing Maxwell in ankle chains brought her comfort and felt appropriate. And no pictures in any of these trials and the court cases here. All sketches, which of course leads to everyone speculating, is she even really there? Are they using some kind of body double? Especially, it makes me especially suspicious when they're like, they're coloring the response of the people that were there, the accusers and the victims, their emotional reaction to seeing her there, to not leave any doubts that she's really there. Maxwell said the statement from victims and accusers were, quote, terribly difficult to hear, and that it was, quote, difficult to absorb the scale and extent of their experiences. To the victims, Maxwell said, quote, I'm sorry for the pain that you experienced. Adding, quote, I hope my conviction and harsh incarceration bring some closure. Wow, that's interesting. Quote,
20 years.
Mm-hmm. It is my sincerest
wish. Like enough.
Well, what is she, 60?
Something like that.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's almost like a life, the rest of your life kind of thing, I guess.
But if it is that, I mean, why not get the full, symbolism?
Because she got good lawyers. Because she had good lawyers that are well connected and have tapes on all the people that would be making the decisions. Right. Quote: It is my sincerest wish to all those in this courtroom that this day brings this terrible chapter to an end. She says. Listen to, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way it reads on ABC News here, but it just sounds like she's like, yeah, my people are working on it on the back end. And, just beware. Maxwell also said, quote, it is the greatest regret of my life that I ever met Jeffrey Epstein. She called Epstein.
That was an interesting part of it where she's just blames it all on him, where before she would defend him and stuff. This is really strange.
Yeah. Maxwell also said, it says greatest regret meeting Epstein. She called Epstein a, quote, manipulative man who was cunning, controlling, and fooled all of those in his orbit. Maxwell, 60, and Epstein, who died by suicide in jail, quote, were partners in crime who sexually exploited young girls together, said New York City federal prosecutors who had asked the judge for a sentence of at least 30 years in prison. I wonder if it was 33, but they couldn't publish that. So 30 years. So there's your more right there, Basil. They tried for 30. They got 20. Prosecutors said Maxwell and Epstein selected their victims carefully and asserted that it was no accident. The 4 accusers who testified, Jane, Kate, Carolyn, and Annie, came from single mother households. Yada, yada, yada. More details there. Yeah. There was a part in here that I wanted to wrap with this story because it's not. Oh, here it is. Quote, the witnesses at trial testified about Miss Maxwell's facilitation of Epstein's abuse, but Epstein was always the central figure. I think this is Epstein's lawyer talking here. Epstein was the mastermind. Epstein was the principal abuser, and Epstein orchestrated the crimes for his personal gratification, quote, end quote, defense attorney said in her sentencing memorandum. Quote, indeed, had Ghislaine Maxwell never had the profound misfortune of meeting Jeffrey Epstein over 30 years ago, she would not be here. How come on. Can I use that in any argument with anybody? I mean, the hilarious part being that it seems as though she was the one kind of in charge with her. Yeah, her connections with her dad and the whole deal. She seems to have been the one plugged into the international intelligence community and was, using Epstein to build the honeypot that was the whole operation. Yeah. So it's just hilarious that the only thing the lawyer can say is, if she didn't have this misfortune of meeting this man, then she wouldn't be here. The defense also suggested Maxwell was susceptible to Epstein's influence in part because of her relationship with her father and late British publishing magnate Robert Maxwell, who the defense said verbally and physically abused her. Okay, lay it all on. It's all men.
Such an interesting, and it's the abuse of men. It's interesting because they go back to, it's her father's fault because he was mean, not, it's her father's fault because he
was part of
got her into the intelligence agency and like helped her build a
Mossad?
A blackmail empire.
Yeah.
I think it was British intelligence.
Was he British intelligence? Well, maybe it was British, yeah.
But had the connections with Mossad.
Right.
Are ubiquitous.
Yeah. So there you go. That's pretty much it. A lot of people are jumping. The last line of the sentence here to takeaway. Defense attorney Bobby Sternheim said Maxwell intends to appeal her conviction. That's what a lot of people are picking up on, is that her sentence may be reduced according to how many names she releases. And there is kind of a sick part of the public, the general public, who are truther types that want the truth about the whole Epstein-Maxwell thing to be exposed. And, they're just like, they're rubbing their hands together. Is it Tom Hanks? Is it your most beloved pop star? Like whoever it may be, it's like a game show. So anyway, I just think it's weird culturally that we have that thing going on. And it'll be interesting to watch if they decide to throw anyone's person under the bus. Maybe they'll start with some dead people, and then if that doesn't work, they'll really start rolling out the big guns. But that's assuming that she's actually anything. If they do anything, but that's assuming she's also in jail. So there's a lot of skepticism throughout. But there's your Epstein update. Oh, by the way, yes, I just missed it. I forgot to talk about the number 13 because Ghislaine vividly recalls a time when, at age 13, she tacked a poster of a pony on her newly painted wall in her bedroom. Rather than mar the paint with tape, she carefully hammered a thick tack to mount the poster. This outraged her father, who took a hammer and banged on Ghislaine's dominant hand, leaving it severely bruised and painful for weeks to come. Yeah, this is when she was 13.
So what does that have to do with Jeffrey Epstein and becoming a worldwide pedophilic child sex trafficker?
Well, this is all part of the outrage of the Roe reversal. If we knew these things would happen to them, then maybe the parents would have taken a different path.